All right, so we're getting ready to talk about the mound builders, right? The archaeological site known as Poverty Point in Louisiana was named by Philip Gouillier, a 19th century plantation owner. He established a plantation on the land in the 1840s and named it Poverty Point after a place near his home in Kentucky. Archaeologists later used the name for a prehistoric site. So what they're saying is poverty we know is synonymous in America with black. So really he was calling it Black Point, right? In Louisiana. Why? Because black people built the mounds. Now the guy who was giving out the relevant information pertaining to the mounds, he was saying that they didn't know who built the mounds. And the funny part about it, and this has nothing to do with race, though, y'all. So the funny part about it was he was saying that we, as people, including himself, in the history of the mounds, and we all know Europeans was not. They were still in Europe during the cave era. So they wasn't in the Americas. They haven't even traveled to the Americas yet. So it's impossible for Europeans to have played a part in the mound building. We know that the mound building was also being built at the same time the pyramids was being built in Egypt. Now, when the Siberians, who are the ancestors of what they call the Native Americans, when they came to the America, they documented that the mounds was already here when they came to America. They stated that the mounds were built by a much bigger and darker Indian people. That is the testament of the Siberians who came here. Although the reason why he stated bigger and darker, because the Siberians came over here would have a similar look to, let's say, the Eskimos, and they had a different shade. You had darker Siberians along with lighter Siberians, right? But after the war between the original people of North America in the area, and from Texas to California, even all the way up to Illinois, after that war took place, the what they call bigger and darker Indians lost the war. So the Siberians won the war, and they was mixing in with each other. So when the European came to the Americas, he couldn't. They told him the story, but he couldn't separate or distinguish between the two groups. And so when he was bringing some slaves from Africa to the Americas, he used that to just enslave anything that just wasn't white, right? And and let me tell you why I'm doing this and what was so funny. And this incident happened today, right? Check this out, y'all. So I'm at a friend's store, right? And we talking business, right? A young man came in the store. First, when I first pulled up there, it was a black female. I don't know if she was Nigerian, Tanzanian, Ghanaian. I couldn't tell, but she had a slight accent. Somebody had broke into her store, right? So while we went inside my friend's store discussing business, young gentleman, he comes in the store and said that he just got out of a group home and he needs to go to Southwest Houston, and he asks if he can use the store owner's cell phone to try to call him a ride. Now he had a red knit bag in his one hand, He had a blue kind of knit bag in the other hand. One had clothes in it, the other one had like a file, like a fold or whatever, right? So, dude let him use the phone, right? And while he was on the phone, he was talking to his mom because he was saying mom. But while he was on the phone with his mom, the way he was talking to his mom, like they was partners. You know what I'm saying? Like that's his homeboy or something. And I'm like, damn, dude, that's how you talk to your mom. And in my head, I didn't say nothing though, right? So he left. 5 minutes later, he came back and he said, man, these people around here looking at me funny, and it's hot outside. And I'm feeling like I might faint. Can y'all call me an ambulance, right? So my partner who owns the store said, well, dude, the fire station right there, that's where the ambulance coming from. You can walk there to right there. It won't even take you 5 minutes, right? So now he changed the subject. Now all of a sudden he don't feel ill no more. He hurt. Then he said, okay, well, then he started getting desperate and agitated, right? So in my mind, I'm like, bruh, dude, make one wrong move, bruh. I'm just sitting here, right? He getting agitated. Well, let me stay in here under this AC with y'all. And then he said, matter of fact, can y'all take me to the Southwest and drop me off at the food stamp office, right? Now I'm in my mind, I'm hot, right? So I'm like, look here, bruh. I said, this not my store. This is his store. But, bruh, if it was me, I'd tell you to leave, bruh, and go. I don't know what your problem is, but you in the wrong spot. Then I told him, I tell you what you do, bruh. Why don't you say a prayer, right? And then what you want or what you need, just start walking, and maybe God is sending you what you need along your journey, right? Because now I'm getting agitated now, because when a person is desperate, then they get aggravated, then they start getting demanding. Before you know it, now we got a situation, right? Dude left, I'm kind of heated, right? So I let me go grab me something to eat, bro. Check this out. Put out the parking lot, go get me something to eat, right? I'm going in the parking lot. Young guy, because the guy who I was just referring to, he a young dude too. Really, he just getting out of TDC, but he think he run the game on us. But we already know they done gave you that money, that little $50 they gave you. You know what I mean? And that ride took you as far as to where you was at, right? But now you hustling instead of just coming out saying the situation, and you aggravated, and you looking like you trying to rob or take something, or trying to snatch a phone and run, or just the dude look shady. So anyway, I go across the street, give me something. We're getting ready to go get me something to eat. So as I'm getting ready to park, it was a young dude. He had 2 parking spaces blocked. We get there at the same time. So I'm looking, I'm like, but he had his windows rolled up when it was tinted, so I didn't know he was a young dude at the time. He stopped with 2 parking spots blocked, and I'm like T-boning because I'm getting ready to just go straight into the parking lot. So I'm looking, he looking, so I'm like, so I'm ready. And then he rolled his window down, and he was like, no, sir, I'm getting ready to bag in. And I said, and then I seen on his car, with how they paint the white shoe polish on the windows. Congratulations, he just graduated 2025, and he met his family at the restaurant. They were getting ready to celebrate his graduation, and I kind of was already on edge, and I'm like, with an attitude, and I had to calm down, right? And I said something though, man. Look at these 2 dynamics, right? One, they about the same age. One just get out the TDC, right? Another one just graduating from high school, right? And I'm saying, and totally 2 different ends of the spectrum, right? But both of them black men, right? And I said, you know what? This who I. So I went to the table where his family was, and I gave him a donation, bro. I said, you know what, young man, congratulations that you graduated for high school, bro, from high school. And I said, man, I hope you go on to college and do great things with your life, right? And it dawned on me, that's who we need to start giving attention to and helping them along their way and their journey to produce something for the next generations. Why spend time on somebody who obviously spend most of their time trying to hustle and take from people and don't understand why they keep going through that revolving door when you got people who actually trying to be a credit to the race and actually trying to build? Why not stand behind brothers and sisters like that? And just deal with that. Because we would get there faster and further along dealing with like minds who want to build. And it dawned on me that, okay, that's the reason why I do projects like this, is for them, so they can have knowledge to add to knowledge on top of knowledge, so much knowledge to where they can maneuver throughout life, circumstances, situations, and keep moving forward and keep building, and showing them that you come from a lineage of builders. They building mounds. They building certain edifices. They building a spiritual, ceremonial place specifically for that purpose that they built, because they understood the need for that within those mounds, right? So I went there for that, and I'm getting ready to show you guys the whole tour. But I just want to show you how important, the things that we do, bruh. Okay, now check this out. It says a controversial study suggests that humans, potentially a group of archaic hominids other than modern humans, may have been present in North America as early as 130,000 years ago, showing you that we've been here in the Americas. It was so many of us in the Americas that you couldn't put us, all of us wouldn't fit on a reservation. Right. Let me give you an example. You know how they have the saying, when in Rome, do what the Romans do? It's like, okay, let me even one closer than that. You got a lot of expats that move to Houston, right? And over time, those expats, they get swooned into the Houston culture. To now you can see that culture, and now you can't tell the difference from the native Houstonian or the expat over time, because the language changing. They're using some of the slang. We know they've fully been encompassed by the culture. It's just a part of them now because you've been here that long. So it showed that if you coming into the Americas from Europe, it's just a matter of time before you lose where you come from, and you adapt to the culture that was already here. That's why if you take this generation of white people, and if they go back to any part of Europe, they would stand out like a sore thumb. Right? The way they speak English is different. How they do their food is different. What they used to is they totally 180 degrees different from when they first left Europe and came to the Americas, because the culture of the Americas and the people engulfed them, right? So as hard as they fight to try to say that we're different and racism, and it's just a matter of time to where racism also will be coupled and engulfed, and the culture be ate up, and you won't be able to justify its existence, if that makes sense. So, hope y'all enjoy this. It's brief, and I'm just saying that to say that you can't say we don't know why the mounds were built and we don't know who built the mounds when you have people who come from the ancestors who've built those mounds, who were like griots, griots, who passed that information down from generation to generation within their community. Just because your scholars didn't put it in the book don't mean that it wasn't so. They just weren't privy to the information. Why? Because they wasn't from here. They don't know what we was doing 200,000 and 300,000 years ago. They don't know what we were doing in the Americas and why we built and what we did and why we do certain things. That's why you have the slang when they were saying that's a black thing. You wouldn't understand. You wasn't here. And we're not going to tell you why we did certain things, because we learned that through our experience, when we tell you, you would take it and use it against us. Racism is real. So we have to maneuver and do things in a certain way just to preserve our damn self. You know? So that's what that is. So y'all enjoy the show. Verbal Prick Radio is here. And make sure you check out the movie Accountability. You can watch it on Folsom TV and just search Accountability. You go on your Roku TV and your search bar Accountability Gas Man. Amazon Fire TV Stick, search bar Accountability Gas Man. And enjoy the show. We out. So yeah, I'm here to gather our ancestors' mounds that we built, as you see, over 1600 BC to 1100 BC. They call it hunter-gatherers. We know
that is larger, but it was the largest thing ever created by native peoples when it was built around 1350 BCE, so just over 3,300 years ago. Does anyone know what else is happening in the world 3,300 years ago? Any history buffs? Well, I can tell you, that's my job, and I'm happy to. You've heard of Tutankhamun, King Tut?
No.
Have you heard of Nefertiti and Nefertari?
Yes.
That mound was built within a couple decades of King Tut, more in his grandmother's reign. I think it's Nefertari there. So that gives you a sense of age. Has anyone ever heard of the Minoans? They're a culture that existed in Crete, in the Mediterranean Sea. You've also maybe heard of the Mycenaeans, which were the Greeks at the time. This is called the Late Bronze Age, if you're studying cultures in that part of the world. Now, if you go further to the east, to what is China today, you have the Shang Dynasty, which is a really big deal if you study history in China. Those are the oldest written records we have from that part of the world. But over here, this is the big deal, right? But how long have we been people?
Shit, for millions.
Yeah, so depending on where you want to slice it. Now, modern humans have been around for at least 200 to 300,000 years. So how did we live for most of our story? Like the people who built these monuments. And it turns out that we've never been simple. The mounds and earthworks that we see at Poverty Point and around the world are signs of how complicated we were and how complicated we still are today. So we're going to take this piece by piece, and we're going to discuss the archaeology and what that can tell us about the site along the way. We should be out there for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many questions. There'll be a number of stops along the way, and we should have a safe and a fun time. And important rules for tram riding: make sure we stay in our seats at all times and keep all your arms, legs, fingers, and toes inside the vehicle. All good?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Okay, because they're not a true wood hinge. Or, like, has anyone heard of Stonehenge or visited before?
That's Stonehenge, right?
What's it got going on in the middle? All kinds of stuff. Because if you're looking at this as something to see solstices or equinoxes take place, or mark different times of the year, you would want something in the middle to help mark these events. And that's not something we currently see at Poverty Point. So it's very mysterious what these spaces were set aside for. But here's what I can tell you. We have ground truth for not just 2 timber circles that you see marked today, but at least 36 that were constructed inside the plaza. So you're just looking at 2 shown examples. And we have been doing ongoing archaeology to look at the timber circles themselves. We know that they were temporary. That means they were built, removed, and replaced over a period of about 5 days. Without exception, consider earth to be a sacred material. There are some parts of oral histories that do contain really important bits of truth. So where would they collect this sacred material? They would gather it from the earth itself. We have a number of borrow areas. I'm going to point one out over there. Do you see that group of trees in that low area? Okay. So a lot of dirt was borrowed from this area and brought over here. Oh, we found a mound that snuck up on us. This one's Mound E, and it's 150 years older than the big one that you were looking at to begin with. Built sometime just after 1500 BCE, or roughly 3,500 years ago. And like most mounds, when you dig inside, you find layers, right?